Good morning. What a glorious day it is. When I went through this whole litany, this list of hierarchies of importance, the process of transitioning, culminating in a transformation, about clarity, a lifelong pursuit. And it seemed really obvious to me when I was talking about clarity and purpose. While clarity remained elusive, and I had to go almost full circle to get to the essence of what this quality that I labeled clarity, what it was that I was after, pursuing, desiring, until those things fell away with the process of giving up, because I thought that through my Rinzai Zen, and this is my own unique interpretation probably, I don't know how many scholars, serious Zen scholars would back me up, but my understanding was simplistic, that to silence the mind, clarity would come. Well, this process didn't work. At least it didn't provide me with, first of all, I was unable to shut the mind. I got a noisy bugger, it's incessant. I have learned to both tame while ignoring, especially the ego, the monkey mind, where the ego resides and is sustained and supported and defined. Just nonsense and noise. So I can tame that while being entertained. Because the trickster, which I call the monkey mind, which many call the monkey mind, not just me, the trickster is amusing and fun to watch once you're onto its game. Its game of sustaining, promoting, developing separation and division. But when this epiphany, when this understanding came to me, that the clarity that I desired had to do with purpose. And it's funny, I always make these assumptions. I assume that people would immediately know what I meant by purpose. But then during my meditation, sitting right over there, yesterday, my afternoon long meditation, what seemed obvious to me, it needed some explanation, some more refined definition. Because I realized that there's inner and outer purpose. And outer purpose is the one that most people identify. What is your purpose for living? And you're talking as a human doing. What should you do? What career should you pursue? What talents can you refine, develop that will consequently be your livelihood, your purpose. I know friends who were born to be a doctor, born to be a sportsman, born to be an intellectual. And they could see this as their purpose, and to accomplish their purpose. Purpose and goal are kind of interchangeable with this outer reflection of purpose. So the proper education, the proper training, the proper arena to express, to share this purpose. This outer purpose is best served by articulating it from an early age, preparing those around you to support you in this pursuit. Just as I was talking about the subtle difference between impel and compel. Compel has to do with the constraints, restrictions, expectations of the outer driven world. And this is purpose. And it's utilitarian. We need it as a society. And when they say be practical, this is what they're talking about. Focus on your outer purpose. This is the compelling aspect of the outer sourced sense of purpose, the development. And when you're involved in pursuing these outer purpose, because basically you're not aware that there could be any other source or any other source of purpose or any other kind of purpose other than the one that you're compelled from the constraints, from the criticism, and sometimes positive support. If you're really talented, you may early on find patrons, whether it's your parents, your teachers, but people are willing to support you in this pursuit. Advocation, a job, and it is a pursuit. Now, most people, when they look at impel and compel, impel is inner directed, coming from within. Compel is outer directed. So in the hierarchy of importance, almost without fail, people stress to be compelled as more important. This is your contribution to your society. This is how you'll find your way in day-to-day living. This is how you'll find your financial support. This is how you will maintain the physical shell that the great majority identify, this egoic driven outer being is all that most people are capable of seeing or even entertaining, that is within the realm of possibility, that purpose might be seen differently. And I told you early on that I was saying, compel, tell me to do something, I'm not going to do it. And I talked about my indirect confrontation. I was rebellious, but a subtle rebellion. A rebellion that only the most astute could call me on. Wasn't in your face, no, I'm not going to do that. But I'll tell you something. Tell me to do something, compel me to do something is like, it's like a guarantee that I won't do it. And I'll be a passive resistor, deflect, camouflage. Never give direct yes or no. Consequently, I was seen as indecisive. I didn't really have a yes or a no, but that was part of the protection strategy. I just didn't have the constitution, just didn't have the makeup to stand and shout it out. I will not do this. As Gandalf said, thou shalt not pass. My talents laid in more subterfuge. Now, some people might see this as dishonest, but that you should speak it out. Courage of your convictions is what comes to me. Have the courage of your convictions. I had the courage of my convictions, but just my approach was based on talents, abilities that I had. And I was smart. So I saw the consequences of boldly standing up. You'll be chopped at the knees. You're going to enjoy a short, rebellious career. Wherever, if you're indirect, it served me well. I'm sitting in front of you as an advocate, as an example of this practice of indirect rebellion through reflection, deflection. So we get to this word impel. Now we're playing my game. Impellment from inwards. When I was impelled to do something, self-driven, in the hierarchy of importance, it was at the top. I always listened. I abided the counsel of my inner being because I was fortunate enough to be in touch with it as long as I can remember. And it was here that I looked to for guidance. It was here that I looked to any kind of plan involving my life. Impel. So, unlike most, impel was overpoweringly more importance, higher on the hierarchy of importance than absolutely anything else. Because I found through experience that this inner direct, to be impelled, never led me astray, where I bowed down to the outside force of purpose, outside driven purpose. Compel. You must do that. You must do. To get to here, you have to do that. And impels without these conditions. In fact, the conditions don't even exist. To be impelled, you'll be prompted to do something, not towards a goal, just to do the deed in and of itself. And that was enough. You didn't need any promised land. You didn't need a destination. You understood this impel was your journey to where you didn't know. And to take it one step farther, you didn't really care. It was of little import because your trust, the inherent trust of that this inner purpose is greater than oneself. It's to be trusted. Had to be discovered, developed, supported, and then it takes over. And if you live long enough, you start to see, aha, there's something here. I was on to something long ago. So this was important, that didn't understand when I said clarity equal purpose. Well, in my hierarchy of importance, it was really obvious that I'm talking about inner directed. I'm talking about being impelled. Impelled to take a certain step, to go a certain direction, to take a certain fork in the road. To be able to quickly, when the roads cross and there is an interchange, to quickly, subconsciously, through trust, love, experience, let the inner force make the choice, guide me. So this is the purpose. I felt compelled by expectations of my understanding, expectations that people will assume that outer directed purpose is what I'm talking about. Goals. Especially as you specialize, it become more specific goals. You have to get in the best preschool, elementary school, junior high school, senior high school, and university to develop your purpose. We can particularly see that in Taiwan and all of Asia, how important it is that you get into the best school that you can and then you stay at the top of the class. Tremendous pressure. Tremendous pressure. Outer directed. You're being compelled first by your parents, but your parents can't do any better than their parents did. It all is societal driven, culturally driven. And we're like puppets. We just go through the motion. Well, I would have none of that from an early age. I learned that outer source, including purpose, had absolutely no import and very little impact, if I was completely forthcoming, very little impact on how I chose to live my life. My hierarchy of importance put me beyond the pale of the culture, the environment, the parental structure, the laws, everything that seems to have been developed to control. Those in power want to maintain their power. And how do you maintain your power? By control. Thought control. Outer directed forces, threats, the punishments that you would receive if you didn't comply, if you weren't malleable, if they couldn't shape you into what they needed as a robot in their technological machine. And always through advertising, through the earliest TV show. Take a look at children's TV. It's all promoting consumerism. Get McDonald's. Buy this toy, you'll be happy. And as you age, happiness is promised to you by other things. Graduate from a good school. Find a good wife. Find a good job. Have children. This is somewhere in between there. Buy a house. Usually, probably before, after you get a job. Maybe after marriage or maybe before marriage, but usually after marriage is something that you do because you're compelled by the forces, outer forces, to consume, to buy. The biggest expense of your life is your housing and mortgage. Then you're stuck. You have to make the mortgage payment. Remember, your house owns you until that day, if it comes. Because people get second and third mortgages, they go deeper in debt. If it ever comes that you've paid your debt, and if you look at what you paid for your house, $280,000, but by the time you're finished paying, you've paid double that with interest. It's a rigged game. And many of you are aware of that. It's a rigged game, but most are compelled, most just follow blindly. In the wild expectation that they might please someone, be it your parents, your friends, your wife, your colleagues. Your sense of worth, your sense of self comes from without. I'll turn it around. That's what I'm talking about. I was impelled. And to be impelled is, as I said, enormously more powerful than outside the outer world directed. So it's the inner world. Those of you that weren't sure, any of you that followed me on this journey of my transition to transformation, and I simplified. I talked about clarity meant understanding purpose. And as I sat on it, which I'll do, I'll sit on what I'm sharing with you today. I'll sit on it. When I say sit in it, I mean sit in my meditation chair and see what comes up. See what the inner voice, the inner directed, the inner world brings forward. What I'm impelled to do. So today I was impelled to share this further explanation of what purpose Which purpose am I talking about? Where's the origins? Now, here's, and they differ in their origins. The outer directed purpose, part of the impetus, part of that makes you buy into this, is that the promise, this reward. And it's usually about happiness. If you have this, if you have a BMW, if you have a bigger house, if you have a better paying job, if you have a prettier wife, that this will somehow make you happy. But happiness is only comes from within. And if you don't believe me, that happiness is a choice, I chose to be happy. I'm a happy man. Even in the most trying, the saddest of times, that happiness sits with the blue Buddha, who sits between the chakra of my heart, the unexpressed, unexplained chakra between my throat and my heart is where the blue Buddha resides. The blue Buddha is the healing Buddha. The blue Buddha helps me, prompts me, impels me, informs me that my voice can be a form of healing. And this is thanks to the blue Buddha, who again asked me if he could come and take up, if he would establish a new home within. So, this is all the validation I ever needed. If the blue Buddha as an entity, a beautiful entity, wanted to reside. And remember, my guides are Dhammo and the unnamed. I just know that it was, one incarnation was Roger Bacon, a hooded Franciscan monk. Now, the blue Buddha is available to all of us. Milafo, Dhammo is available. Milafo is the happy Buddha, the smiling Buddha. Dhammo is the more fierce looking one. But Dhammo is available to all of us. Roger Bacon, or this incarnation of more, it comes from a Western tradition. I see Roger Bacon as a giant, brown-clad monk who has no feet, who floats, who has no words. His hood covers his face, so his face is shadows. Whereas Dhammo, the strict, we see him always frowning. Dhammo is the court gesture, continually somersault and spouting, just making up for Roger Bacon's scarcity of lack of words, and he's just incessantly. But if you listen carefully, everything he says as he somersaults along. So I have one floating with me through the world and another somersaulting. But what I wanted to stress is this: not proprietary. They don't belong to me any more than I belong to the outer fourth society, even my parents. I simply don't belong. It's not about possession. It's about free participation. And I'm committed to contributing in any way that I can to the betterment of my society, to the betterment of my culture, to the betterment of the outer world, in any way that I'm capable of. So it's not about dismissing. It's about, again, the hierarchy of importance. It's important, but not, it's lower on my scale of importance. So this inner purpose, this being impelled towards a purpose coming from within, a purpose free of expectations, free of conditions. It's given freely when you reach the state that you can, if not understand, at least imagine. Everything starts with imagination. I shared that yesterday. Having a rich childhood imagination is the breeding ground, the training for this trust in inner directedness. Trust so deeply to the point of exclusion. The outer direction, as far as I'm concerned, is egoic. It's part of the monkey mind. It's just the noise out there. And once in a while, through the noise, something becomes apparent, that's something that I could contribute to. I have a responsibility to contribute to the general good in whatever way that I'm equipped to, in whatever way my talents allow me to. So right now, sharing seems to be secondary, and what's primary is my behavior, how I greet the world, how the world finds me. This, if I can have any impact at all, lies within me expressing, projecting goodness, wholeness, concern, love, without expectation.